Welcome back on this Tuesday. Another great day that God has given to us. But this chapter we are reading is one of those difficult chapters. We ran across a bunch of them in Genesis when we did that a few months ago. And today we are running across probably the hardest chapter in the book of Exodus to read. It's because of the rebellion against Moses and against the Lord, the golden calf episode. Let's begin reading. But before I do that, a reminder, read through everything beforehand, because I am going to have to skip over a lot of it, especially the last part of the chapter. And I know there are questions that you might have. If you do have questions that you would like an answer, make sure to email me. Put a comment on YouTube, and I will respond to that. You can email me at cburma@peacecolumbus.org. Let's begin verse 1 of chapter 32. When the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, the people gathered themselves together to Aaron and said, Make us gods who shall go before us. As for this Moses, the man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, we do not know what has become of him. So Aaron said to them, Take off your rings of gold that are in the ears of your wives, your sons, and your daughters, and bring them to me. So all of the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears and brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand and fashioned it with a graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. You see, God, I believe, was testing the people to see if they would trust in him, if they would obey that command they made in chapter 19, I believe it was, that they would believe and trust in the Lord. They were failing. 40 days, again, 40 days is a time of testing. After 40 days, they were giving up on Moses. Notice what they say. As for this fellow Moses, who led us out of Egypt, we don't know what happened to this great man, but just some fellow that came and did all of this. We don't know. So Aaron made them happy. He made them gods to worship, God in the shape of a golden calf. And he said, This is your God who led you out of Egypt. Now remember, around this time, the people around them worshiped idols made of gold and silver and bronze, especially the Egyptians. They had images of their gods all over the place. And now the Lord is saying, I am the Lord, but they haven't seen him or a representation of him. They are trying to figure out what he looks like. But in doing so, instead of trusting in the Lord for who he is, they are taking matters in their own hands, and Aaron made them a god. Possibly saying this is the Lord, but the point is that's not what the Lord is. He is not something that can be put into an image. Verse 7. And the Lord said to Moses, Go down to your people, whom you brought up out of the land of Egypt, have corrupted themselves. They have turned aside quickly out of the way I have commanded them. They have made for themselves a golden calf and have worshipped it and sacrificed to it and said, These are your gods, O Israel, who brought you up out of the land of Egypt. And the Lord said to Moses, I have seen this people, and behold, it is a stiff-necked people. Now, therefore, let me alone, that my wrath may burn hot against them, and I may consume them, in order that I may make a great nation of you. God puts it on Moses as well, doesn't he? Go down, for your people whom you brought up out of the land of Egypt have corrupted themselves. The people are not doing what they are called to do. And God's anger is burning against them. Notice how he says so quickly. 40 days may have seemed like a long time to the people, but to the Lord, it is a quick turnaround. And because of that, he wants to destroy them, to consume them. Verse 11. But Moses implored the Lord his God and said, O Lord, why does your wrath burn hot against your people, whom you have brought out of the land of Egypt with great power and a mighty hand? Why should the Egyptians say, with evil intent did he bring them out to kill them in the mountains and to consume them from the face of the earth? Turn from your burning anger and relent from this disaster against your people. Remember, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and Israel, your servants, to whom you swore by your own self, and have said to them, I will multiply your offsprings as the stars of the heaven, and all this land that I have promised I will give to your offspring, and they shall inherit it forever. And the Lord relented from the disaster that he had spoken of bringing on his people. Once again, Moses intercedes for the people. Moses, even though he knows that they are wrong, steps up before the Lord and tells the Lord why he should forgive them, should move on, should not destroy them. Gives a couple reasons. So the Egyptians don't say, hey, he just brought them out into the wilderness to kill them, and to remember the promise that he made. Now the Lord remembered. I think this was a test then of Moses, not to be full of pride in himself and in his own family and ability to have a great nation, but to be the servant of the people, to humble himself and to remind the Lord what the Lord had promised, and to remind himself what God had promised and what God would do. As you find out as you read the rest of the chapter, there is punishment that comes as a result of the sin. Even Aaron, I love his excuse later on. He says, I took all of this jewelry, threw it in the fire, and out came this calf. He's trying to explain away, but yet God still forgives him. Even though there is punishment that happens, God forgives his people, and he continues to have them be his people. Now we might say on our side, those Egyptians, how soon they forget, how soon they move away from that promise that they made to the Lord, that the Lord had made to them, and seen his power and his might. But yet, we better not speak too loud, because that's the exact same thing we do. May God guide us to listen to him, to seek his will, and to be strengthened in his word so that we might obey him, so he might be our true God today and always. May God grant this all for Jesus' sake. Amen.